Calumet Editions, an eclectic publisher of fiction, nonfiction, and poetry, introduced a new business model nearly a decade ago, in which the publisher and author work as equal partners in a joint venture. Their stable of authors have won numerous and prestigious prizes across literary forms. Where traditional publishers fail to see the value in projects, Calumet cooperates with its authors in realizing a book's potential.
Welcome once again to Writer's Corner. Alan Miller with you as usual. And we have sort of a different twist today. We have, to my left, John Gaspard, who's not a magician. He just plays one in his writing. And Jim Cunningham, who's probably well known to many of you from the Renaissance Festival, from Dudley Riggs' workshop, etc. And they travel as a tandem.
Yes,
and
we do.
This is actually the voice of Eli Marks, who's the subject of the latest book. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to turn it over to Jim and let him take it from there with John.
All right. Thank you, Alan, very much. Always good to see you, Pard.
Yes, I only see you by Zoom now.
That's exactly right. Getting us in the same room is very difficult. Very weird. Good on Alan.
For all we know, this is a split
happen.
screen, and I'm being done next week.
I feel like I got my full arms here. Let's just talk about, because how many books into the series are we?
There are 10 books in the Eli Marks series.
10 books. How'd you get into writing? Now, you and I know each other, of course, through our corporate work.
Right.
You were a longtime producer of corporate events, and you hired me to be a host or an MC at these events. That's how we met 35 years ago.
A long time ago.
Yeah, absolutely. Once you got into, you were always writing.
I was always writing. Part of my job was writing. I'd written screenplays, I'd produced movies, but as I got older, I was looking for something that was a little bit easier to write. And I thought, I'll try a novel.
Sure. That's, I'm sure, easier to write.
In many ways it is. Doesn't involve other people.
All right. And so, how long have you been writing these Eli Marks mysteries?
I think around 2010, 2012, somewhere in there I started it. I'm not a magician, but Eli Marks is a magician. He's a working magician in the Twin Cities.
How did you work that in?
Well, first I had to learn what magicians know. And because of my corporate work and hiring people like Jim, I'd met a lot of magicians. So I had a lot more people in my Rolodex, to use a modern term, that I could touch base with to learn about what their lives were like. And then the key thing for me was I wanted to do, the first book is called The Ambitious Card, which is a famous magician card trick. I thought I'll learn how to do that, and from that I'll get a sense of being a magician. And luckily in the Twin Cities we have a world-class magician named Suzanne, who has fooled Penn and Teller. She's been at the Magic Castle, and she gives classes. So I took a class from her for several weeks on how to do the ambitious card. So I learned a card trick, but I also learned in chatting with her what her life was like. What is it like to be a magician? How do you earn your living? Where are your venues? What are your problems? And from that, I was able to create the character of Eli Marks, who has all those same problems.
And then there's the voice of Eli Marks.
Yeah, that was really a great thing that you did for me, to allow me to be the narrator of all the Eli Marks books for Audible and all the other audiobook platforms. I have had just a gas reading these books, and I thank you for that, John, for letting me do that. But before, I'm going to talk a lot, obviously, about Eli Marks, but that wasn't the first novel, was it?
No, the first one, you and I were doing an event that took us to London. And we had a free night, and you said, let's go on this London walk with this guy named Don Rumbelow, who was and is an expert on Jack the Ripper. He's a former Metropolitan policeman, written a very famous book within that community about Jack the Ripper, and we took his walk, which was fascinating. And I thought that would be interesting to do a modern day version of Jack the Ripper. So that book was called The Ripperologists. It's a fine first effort, but was sort of a dead end in that there wasn't going to be another Jack the Ripper, so there was nowhere to go with that one.
Although I will say, the character that is in The Ripperologist based on Mr. Rumbelow, who we both enjoy, does make an appearance later in the Eli Marks mysteries.
Yes, a couple of times. Yes,
Yeah.
He does come back.
Yeah, never get rid of anything.
No.
Rich child of the Depression, I
Yeah.
guess. So let's talk about Eli Marks. He's a magician. He solves mystery, but in talking to other magicians who have enjoyed this series, the big thing that they say is you're getting the magic right. And that's no small feat.
Well, it was important. Anyone who's read a book about something they know about and then you hit a point where the writer has gotten it wrong, you just want to throw the book across the room.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's nothing more annoying. And although the primary audience for the books is not magicians, magicians are going to read it and they are going to respond. So it's very important to explain how the tricks were performed without explaining how they're done. So as a reader, you get a sense of what the ambitious card trick is like, but you don't learn the secret.
Now, in the latest one, you have a co-author.
I do.
Who's a famous magician. And tell us how that came about.
Well, one of the things that people ask me, magicians have said over the years, was we need a book with Eli Marks and his uncle in Las Vegas, and we need one where they're at the Magic Castle, which is
And Twisting the Aces.
Twisting the Aces takes place at the Magic Castle, which is a clubhouse and an entertainment venue for magicians in the heart of Hollywood. It's a classic old Victorian building. It's quite a big deal to go there and witness magic. But because I want to get the details right, I could never write that because I've never been. So Michael Varma, who's a magician and who has been a member of the Magic Castle for years, reached out and said, I have an idea for a story, could involve Eli at the Magic Castle. What do you think? And I read his story and said, well, it's not quite Eli, but we can make it an Eli story. We can add Eli characters, but you have to do all the Magic Castle details. And as a result, we have the book Twisting the Aces, which is, according to people who've been to the Magic Castle, completely accurate as to, you know, it is this far from this doorway to that stairway. It's that many stairs up there. It's got it all.
It's mystery and magic.
Yep, all in one package.
Yes.
It is a tremendous venue, the Magic Castle, and again, I put into the ether, into the universe, that you and I should make a trip to the Magic Castle together. I've been there once. The dinner was fantastic. The magic lifted the top of my head completely off. It's really a great, great thing. If you haven't been to the Magic Castle, figure out how to get there. And the only way you can get in is if you know a magician who is a member who can give you a formal invitation. And don't forget a sport coat and tie, or it's no entrance.
Yeah, it's formal.
It's located where?
It's Hollywood, California. So just right in the middle of LA, and it's spectacular. And the magic, they've got several different rooms, as you're going to find out if you read Twisting the Aces. Does it matter, John, if somebody is now thinking, well, gosh, I would love to read some magician mysteries. Does it matter where they jump in? Do they have to start with Ambitious Card?
They do not have to. Eli does have a process. His life does change over the 10 books, but it's designed so you can pick up any book at any time and there's enough explanation of what's going on.
And all of the books are named like The Ambitious Card, The Professor's Nightmare, Twisting the Aces. All of them are famous magic tricks.
Right, and that was one of the inspirations for the series. When I saw the names of the tricks, I thought those all make really good titles. And, you know, I'd learned The Ambitious Card. It's a trick that I might still be able to do a bit, and I thought I will learn every trick for every title so I can perform it. And then the second title was called The Bullet Catch. And 13 people have died performing the bullet catch, and I didn't want to be number 14. So I thought, okay, I'm not going to learn the tricks anymore.
It's not that big a deal. You got it right. You know, you've got the magic part right in all of these books. And I, being sort of a closet magician myself, appreciate that. But magicians like Teller from Penn and Teller have said to you, you got the magic right. And that is, I think, terrific. And who would know? That was my point. The Magic Castle, a tremendous place to visit. You've never been. You could have written it. So most of us have never been to the Magic Castle. Who would know? But it's important to you to get these things correct so that if you've been there or if you are a magician, there's no book throwing.
Well, like you say, Teller did reach out with an email saying, I read the book, you got all the magic right. He guessed wrong as to who the killer was, so I fooled Teller, but not Penn and Teller. And recently, Lance Burton of Las Vegas fame reached out and said, I am your biggest fan.
Yeah.
We listened to Eli Marks on the tour bus.
It's really so important, though, to be accurate. Research in my books is the biggest part of my books. And there is somebody out there who's going to take you to task if you miss one thing.
Yep.
So more power to you.
Thank you. It takes longer to do, as you know, and sometimes reality gets in the way, and you have to find a way to juggle that. But in the end, it's worth it because it's real.
Let's talk about the podcast quickly. You came up with this idea to write these books and then have created a podcast that you are kind enough to let me be a part of. And it's called Behind the Page, the Eli Marks Podcast. And you and I have a little chat, and then I read a chapter of the book. So if you listen to the podcast straight across, you can hear an entire book for free over the course of the season.
Right.
We're in our sixth season.
We're starting our sixth season in
starting our
January.
sixth,
Yeah.
What made you decide that was a good idea?
Well, I like giving things away. That's a good way to get people into the series, to find stuff to give to them. You had recorded all the books up to that point. And I thought, well, this will be an easy way. We'll just do a podcast where there is a little bit of banter between us, and then we play a chapter, and then there's the next thing. I thought, well, we should probably talk to somebody. So I added in an interview segment. So every season's 24 episodes, and there's going to be you and me chatting. There's going to be an interview with someone of interest in the magic community. There's going to be a chapter from the book. And so one of our first people was the Amazing Kreskin, the late Amazing Kreskin. Dick Cavett has come in and chatted with us, Lance Burton, Teller. Yeah, so we've gotten some good names to come on and chat, and they sometimes have something to do with that chapter, or sometimes it's just, oh, let's talk to Teller, so it's just fun.
It's such a different approach to writing, though. It's so unique. And that's one of the things, having read the book, I learned something. My wife Sharon read the book and felt the same way. And another thing is these are not 450-page tomes.
No.
These are readable books.
Yep. These
And
are cozy
that's very
mysteries,
important.
which you could read in a couple nights if you wanted to.
Yeah.
And in the one that you folks read, Twisting the Aces, it's as much of a tour of the Magic Castle as it is a mystery, because you get to visit, I think, virtually every room in the castle is
We certainly see many rooms, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I want to go back to just talking about Michael Varma and your experience. I know that in your other life and writing screenplays and television episodes, you worked with a co-writer. Was it difficult for you after writing 8 other Eli Marks mysteries to sort of give the keys to the kingdom to another guy for a little while and allow him to, play in your park?
It's like letting somebody start a painting and then I come in and finish it. So I'm always the last brush on it. The system we had was pretty simple. I broke his idea into 24 chapters and made it an Eli Marks mystery, put in Uncle Harry, put in all these characters, put in the twists, changed stuff around. So he had a very strong outline for each chapter. And then I said, Michael, you're going to write each chapter first so that all the Magic Castle stuff is baked in. You're not adding it on top. And then I will take what you've written and I'll tweak it so it sounds like an Eli Marks mystery. And at the beginning, there was a lot of tweaking, but by about halfway through the book, he pretty much picked up the rhythm and the language, and I didn't have to do as much. I mean, I would do stuff, of course, because there's nothing more fun than rewriting somebody else's copy.
It's very different, though. In fact, there are contemporary artists by the name of Schaefer Miles. They're from Wisconsin. They're very well known. And she starts the painting, he finishes the painting. and we've got several of them. They're very unique, and it's very unusual. It's also very unusual in terms of writing a book.
Yes.
I mean, I just lock myself away and go to it. Here you have to share it with somebody.
Well, but I'm still locking myself away. Back when I did screenplays and TV stuff with my writing partner, Michael Paul Levin, there were times when we sat at the same desk with the keyboard and just pulled the keyboard back and forth. And we were, like with our feature Beyond Bob, we literally sat side by side and wrote it. As we got into TV writing, at that time TV was in 4 acts, so that you had 4 separate sections. So we worked out the general treatment for each act together, and then he would do Act 1 and Act 3, and I would do Act 2 and Act 4, and then we'd switch. So very, very rarely now am I in the same room with someone I'm co-writing with. It is an additive process where they're done, and I then take it.
You know, the Minnesota mystery writers have just completed a book where 5 writers wrote a portion of it, and somehow or other, I haven't seen it yet, they've combined it together, and it's a very unique idea.
It is. There was a mystery writer, I'm forgetting her name right now, but she co-wrote a book with her ex-boyfriend, who was also a writer, where she would start a chapter. She did a chapter, and she'd give it to him, and he'd do the next chapter. And it was an annoying book to read because he didn't say yes and. He would go, I was wrong about that. And he would change what she'd written, and then she'd get to chapter 3, and she'd have to go, no, as it turns out. And it was kind of cute for a couple chapters, and then you go, you know, guys, I don't think this is really working.
Scratch your head and put it on the pile.
Yeah, and move on.
Yeah.
And Michael Varma, the co-author of this book, great magician, way into the Magic Castle community, as you mentioned. He also was a writer, has published, right?
He has written. He's written several funny books and books about writing and speaking. He also does, which I can't demonstrate here, but he takes dollar bills and does origami with them.
That's right. Yeah.
And I just got an email from the assistant to our friend Lance Burton, who ran into Michael, and she wrote back and said, he gave us all leprechauns made out of dollars. It was just fascinating. So yeah, he's a man of many talents.
Yeah. So I am still just fascinated by the process, especially after as many books as you had written about Eli. Was there anything in the process that felt like fingernails on a blackboard to you?
No, but I set it up, and he completely agreed to this. I set it up as, I'm going to rewrite your story, you're going to write that, and I'm going to rewrite you, and I have the final word. So he may have, you should ask him, there may have been points where he was pulling out his hair, but for me, I always, I was the last one to hit save. So it was and is very much an Eli Marks book.
What was the inspiration for Eli creating that character? And Uncle Harry.
And Uncle Harry. Well, Eli and Uncle Harry appear in slightly different form in the first book, The Ripperologists, where there is a young policeman who is paired up with an older ripperologist based on Donald Rumbelow. So it's a grumpy old man, young, naive guy. And so I took that and put it in with Eli, who is a magician, has been since he was 13 when his parents died, and he moves in with his Uncle Harry and Aunt Alice. Harry runs a magic store, so Eli has grown up in a magic store, and he knows a lot about magic, but he will never know as much as Harry, because Harry is in his 80s and has done it forever. And the example I use for those of us who are of an age, I say it's, imagine you're Frank Sinatra Jr. Frank Sinatra Jr., fine performer, talented man, but always he's Frank Sinatra Jr.
Yeah.
And that's where Eli is. He is always going to be Harry Marks's nephew, Eli, no matter how good he gets.
Jen, you mentioned Beyond Bob, one of the features that you shot, Grown Men. There's several that you created and shot and full-length movies here. You've written about that process. How many books have you written about screenwriting and making a movie?
There's two major books on it. One is called Fast, Cheap, and Under Control, Lessons Learned from the Greatest Low-Budget Movies of All Time. And that is actually right now we're putting together the 20th anniversary version of that book. And then there's a sequel to it called Fast, Cheap, and Written That Way, in which I talk to 30-some screenwriters who have written low-budget movies, and they give their secrets of how to write a low-budget movie.
Those are, of course, available wherever fine books are sold. But that is not this and those. You've got a brand new book that has just come out that only you, I think, would have thought to write in the first place. Tell us about that.
Yes. Well, back in 1972, there was a movie at the end of 71 that came out called Harold and Maude with Ruth Gordon, Academy Award winner Ruth Gordon, about a 79-year-old woman who starts a relationship with a 19-year-old boy. And because of poor marketing on the part of Paramount Pictures, it came and went very quickly in about a week. But there was a small theater in Edina, Minnesota, right on the edge of Minneapolis, called the Westgate Theater. And it had, at that point, sort of a reputation for failed comedies do well here. So the owners of the theater chain that owned the Westgate put Harold and Maude in there thinking, well, we'll get a few weeks out of this. And it lasted for 115 weeks. Over 2 years, it ran 2 times every night, 4 times on Sundays.
Really?
It ran and ran and ran. They had no other movies there. That's what they ran. And people would call and complain and say, when are you going to change it? And they would say, when it stops making money, we will change it. So it had been there for a year, and they were going to have a birthday party, so they invited Ruth Gordon to come to town. Oh. And she came, and she cut a cake, and she talked. And I went to that because I was probably 13, 14, somewhere in there. And then a year later, they had a second-year anniversary. So Ruth Gordon and the other star, Bud Cort, came to town. And I went to that, and I got to meet Bud Cort, and I had my little Super 8 camera and followed them around. So years and years and years go by, and a book comes out by a guy named James Davidson about the making of Harold and Maude. And I read it and went, that's a good book. I didn't want to write that book, but I'd like to write something about it. And I thought, wait a second, I was there for those 2 years, and I know the people who were there, and I can talk to the people. So I put together a book called Held Over, Harold and Maude at the Westgate Theater. And it's a coffee table book. It's as much pictures as it is text. And it covers how did the Westgate get to where they were, because it opened in 1935 as an opulent showplace. And by the time I got there in 72, it was a rundown, decrepit theater. What happened there? How did Harold and Maude get made? Why did that die? How'd they work together? So that whole 2-year period is covered. And then what happened to the theater after that movie left, and what happened to Harold and Maude? So it's, like you say, I'm the only one who could have written it. I'm the only one who wanted to write it. And in many ways, I'm probably the only one who wants to read it.
Well, but the movie, Harold and Maude, I saw once in the theater.
With your brother and sister-in-law.
With my brother and sister-in-law. And I was too young at that point to appreciate it. And I've really never gone back and rewatched Harold
what's
and Maude.
stopping you?
Is it available somewhere?
You can rent it.
I'll rent it.
I'm sure you can rent it.
Yes,
Amazon certainly
rent
would
it.
have
Yes,
it.
you could rent it.
But it's one of your favorite movies.
It is. It is a beautifully executed movie. It taught me a lot about filmmaking.
Fascinating. The whole thing is just crazy good for me. Do you have, and I'm asking this as much as your narrator, as a fan, are there plans for more Eli Marks?
You know, I don't know. I simply don't know. That's all I know. I mean, I did do the kids' version. There's a young Eli Marks book that has 10 mysteries that the kids can solve and 10 magic tricks they can learn. There might be a second one of those. You did not narrate that because you said, and I agreed, it needs to be a younger voice.
Yeah.
And so we got a younger voice for that. But I don't know. We'll see. Never say never.
Never say never. And in addition to this series of books, the Eli Marks series, you've got a whole other series of books that we can just touch on for a second.
Sure. There's a kind of a companion series called the Como Lake Players Mystery Series. It takes place in St. Paul. There's 3 books in the series. It's about a community theater that this young woman is running, and every time they do a show, someone ends up getting murdered.
You don't want to work there.
Well, the beauty of the structure is, as you know, as an actor, most community theaters, every show has a pretty much different cast. So there's a different set of suspects and a different person to kill.
Good fun.
Thank you.
Yes. And there was one crossover, wasn't there?
There is a crossover story that you actually can go online and get it for free if you go to EliMarksMysteries.com. There's a crossover story told from Eli's point of view, and then another version of the same thing told from the point of view of Leah, who runs the theater. It's the same story, just from two different points of view. They each solve it a little bit differently.
But they both solve it correctly.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good fun. So if people are listening now and they're thinking, hey, I'd like to at least sample this to see if where can they find Behind the Page, the podcast, and that would give them an opportunity to listen to one of the books without necessarily having to jump in with both feet. And then once they get a taste of it, they'll know whether they want to jump in with both feet. Where can we find the podcast?
Just go to EliMarksMysteries.com. That's Eli Marks, M-A-R-K-S, mysteries.com. And there's free books there. A couple free short stories with Eli Marks. You can sample those. That'll take you right to the podcast as well.
All right. And there are 6 seasons of that. 5 seasons done. 6 is starting.
6 has started,
Yeah.
Yep.
And each of them features one of the books. If you start right out of the gate with the first season, you're going to hear the first book, and that'll give you a pretty fair sample of the Eli Marks mysteries.
And if you're an old timer who likes the book in your hands, go to Amazon.
You can go to Amazon, just about any place you buy books online. You can go there. If you are here locally in the Twin Cities, head on down to Once Upon a Crime Books at 26th and Lindale, because Devin has them there, or she can order them if she's out. Actually, any legitimate bookstore can order them for you. And I think if you're wandering through the Minneapolis-St. Paul airport, they still have a few copies out there as well at their big bookstore in the main terminal.
Perfect book to read on a plane. Perfect book.
Yeah.
And you know what? I don't know when this airs, but if it's before Christmas and you know somebody,
it will be.
Yeah. These are great. They make great gifts for anybody you know who's a mystery writer, maybe, or not mystery writer, mystery reader, or writer, I suppose. But also, if you've got grandchildren, nieces, and nephews, the new Eli Marks series for kids is great, because not only are they, it's kind of that, when I was a kid, it was the Encyclopedia Brown mystery.
It's that same format. There's 10 mysteries. Each one stops halfway through, and Eli says, I know the solution, do you? And then there's a break where you can talk about it.
Last minute and a half, any questions that you haven't covered so far?
I'm pretty good for the last minute and a half. I think
Well, what are you doing around the Christmas season?
Not one, but 2 shows. Thanksgiving weekend, I will be at the Confluence Hotel as Charles Dickens. I've used the script that Dickens himself put together for his one-man performances. And not many people know this, but Charles Dickens was an amateur magician. In fact, at the time of his death, people referred to him as the Great Magician. So I'll do a little magic and do a one-man version of A Christmas Carol. And then I moved to the St. Paul Hotel for the 19th season in a play that you directed originally, called It's a Wonderful Life, a live radio play. And it's the story you know from the movie, but it's told like an old-time 1946 radio play with live sound effects, and it's...
And you can hear that on what radio station?
My Talk, 107.1. The night of December 21st, we'll broadcast live from the St. Paul Hotel. In both shows at the Confluence and the St. Paul Hotel, you get a meal along with the show. And if you want to leave bloated and sluggish and filled with the Christmas spirit, head to either the Confluence Hotel Thanksgiving weekend or the St. Paul Hotel from December 12th through Christmas Eve.
John Gaspard, Jim Cunningham, very unique and different interview. Thank you so much.
Alan, thank you, John. Always good to see you.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Alan.